Hi everybody, Sean Woodland and Tommy Marquez here in another featured matchup that you voted that you wanted to see. It's Test 3 for the women. On top of the screen, Tia-clair and Brooke Wells, and on the bottom, the crew from CompTrain, Catherine Davis-Daughter and Amanda Barnhart with the 120 wall ball shots and the 120 calorie row, and we are underway.
And this is the best thing about this type of matchup here, right? You look at the bottom underneath each one of these athletes' nameplates. Only two of these athletes will be going head-to-head in the next round of semifinals. They're technically not really competing against each other, with Tia and Oceania, Catherine in Europe, Brooke Wells and Amanda, the two from North America. So this is one of the few times we'll get to see all four of these go head-to-head in a test like this, probably until the games.
As these competitors go through their wall balls, that white ball, or the white bar, pardon me, in the box above their videos will move further to the right. Once that is all filled in, they will be done with the wall balls, and the same story for the 120 calories. And so far, everyone not breaking these things up.
I would expect very few breaks here overall. One note here that it's to a 9-foot target. Most of these women usually test to a 10-foot target, just because it's what we usually see at the games or some of the higher level competitions. So a 9-foot target here is actually kind of a break for them and a little bit easier. And most of them can do Karen, which is 150 wall balls per time, unbroken. So this should be unbroken with maybe 1 to 2 breaks tops for any one of the top athletes.
The proven crew at the top, the CompTrain crew at the bottom, and you can see by looking at Amanda Barnhart's screen on the bottom right that she and Catherine Davis-Daughter are doing this test together.
Nice little camp versus camp kind of competition here with this test, in particular the proven crew going against CompTrain. And this is one of the things we really see as the benefit for these kind of training collectives, right? You get to throw down right alongside another top 10 games athlete in a given test for one of these online formats when you don't get the environment of the crowd, you don't get the vibe of the competition floor like you do in the live competitions.
And judging by the way that Tia and Brooke, that their situation is laid out, it looks like the two of them going at the same time as well, even though they're on separate videos as we approach the 2-minute mark, and all these athletes still working on those 120 wall balls. Looks like they're all about even on pace, maybe a couple reps separating Brooke Wells from Catherine Davis-Daughter. Davis-Daughter might be in 4th right now, hard to tell because of her bar, but it looks like everyone is maintaining the exact same pace that they started with here in this first part of this test.
And something like a wall ball, there really is kind of a cap on just how many you can do unbroken in a minute. You're usually looking at 30 to 35 with some slight variation whether or not some athletes will catch the ball a little high and then squat down with it. Other athletes will start that squat, let the ball hitting them kind of carry them into the bottom of that squat to kind of rebound for the next rep. So with that, you're usually not going to get more than 1 or 2 per minute extra.
Brooke Wells looks like she might be in the lead here, slightly though, over the other 3 competitors. Again, all of these women going unbroken. Amanda Barnhart just let the ball drop for a split second there before picking it back up and getting back to work. That's the first break she's taken.
And you can see the difference between Brooke Wells in your upper right-hand corner and Amanda Barnhart in the lower right-hand, the foot placement, right? Brooke going with a little bit wider stance, kind of almost shortening the range of motion there, just getting below parallel, just barely hitting the standard, versus Amanda, longer legs, narrower feet. That's just a little bit longer of a distance to go for her squat. It's going to slow her down over the course of 120 reps. Might be a little bit of a difference. One thing to note though, for Amanda, setting the ball down in this, even though it doesn't sound as cool as going unbroken, you can make up the 2 to 3 seconds that you would take here on the rower easily.
Speaking of the rower, Brooke Wells gets there first. 3:28 is when she starts pulling, and Tia-clair right behind her at 3:36. Now here comes Amanda Barnhart, and she starts pulling at about 3:40, which leaves Catherine Davis-Daughter, the last woman on the rower, and she starts right away, so about 3:44 for her.
And even if that break was a mistake, I wouldn't be surprised to see an athlete like Amanda, a little bit taller, a little bit heavier, high power output, one of those explosive type athletes, to maybe give herself just a little bit of a break, knowing she's going to make up some ground on some of these other athletes in something like a 120 calorie row. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of the split difference, just 5 seconds faster on our like 500 meter pacing time that you would see on the row can make up to about 34 seconds over the course of 120 calories. So say for example, Amanda rows at a 150 pace, she'll finish the 120 at about 5:58 versus someone like Brooke or Catherine who maybe might row at a 155. They're gonna be about 38 seconds slower on that. So you can give up a little bit of ground setting the ball down once and push just a few seconds faster for your average split time on the row and be well ahead of the rest of the women in this field.
Brooke Wells, once again, the first woman to the rower. She started pulling at 3:28. Tia Orr was just 8 seconds behind her. And then it was Barnhart in third. She got to the rower at 3:40, and Catherine Davids-Daughter close behind at 3:44 on the clock when she started rowing. We approached the 5-minute mark now.
And I love the big chunk here, the 120 calories straight. That's really going to test your rowing technique over the long run. You just did a movement like the wall ball. It's all leg drive, a lot of squatting here. And the first thing you come out of with this row, you're going to drive out of the receiving or the catching position on the row with your legs and then follow through with the arms. The athletes that haven't been training row technique, it's going to get real sloppy towards the end here.
A white bar next to the word calories on top of their screens will continue to fill in as they progress through those 120 calories. It looks like that Brooke Wells and Amanda Barnhart are on the same pace, very close, both Tia Orr and Catherine Davids-Daughter here.
Other thing I kind of like about a big chunk of the calorie row here is there's a big mental test. Even though they're working out alongside of each other, you cannot see the screen of your competitors here. It's kind of almost like you're left to be in your own head, and you gotta kind of have to keep yourself honest with the pacing, with the thought that maybe your competitors could be speeding up, could be slowing down. Either way, it's a good testament of the mental side of this.
Brooke Wells had the lead coming into this movement. It does look like Amanda Barnhart has been able to close the gap slightly. There wasn't a lot of time separating the four women. Brooke Wells, again, the first woman on the rower at 3:28, and Catherine Davids-Daughter was 16 seconds back, and she was in fourth. So essentially neck and neck at this part of the test.
And look at the difference between Katrin in your bottom left and Tia in the upper right. Katrin was opting for a little bit faster cadence, little quick, shorter pulls. Tia really taking her time at the end of each pull, going back to the start position there, a little bit longer strokes. Same thing with Amanda in the bottom right. Kind of two different ways to get to the same end, but usually over the long haul, the longer, smoother stroke, the more consistent pull throughout is going to win out.
Brooke Wells, judging by the calorie counter, how that's moving to the right, looks like she might have a slight lead on Amanda Barnhart, but not a ton, and both Davids-Daughter and Tia Orr are a little off the lead pace, but the two of them look to be tied with each other as well.
Sean, when I did this test right around the 7-8 minute mark is when I started to basically toy with other hand placements on the handle there, adjusting my pull length like I mentioned, kind of going from the longer pull to the short choppy one to maybe give myself a little bit of break. At this point, it's anything to just change up the monotony of pulling at the same rate, at the same pace, at the same length over and over and over again.
Getting close to the 8-minute mark. It looks like Brooke Wells is still your leader, followed by Amanda Barnhart, and Catherine Davids-Daughter and Tia fighting for third right now unofficially.
You can see on the calorie counter, Amanda Barnhart starting to put some distance between her and a few of the other athletes. She was, I believe, the third to the rower, so a little bit behind coming off the wall balls, but she has made up some tremendous ground on both Catherine and Tia so far.
And you think back to 2018 in that chaos event, how Amanda Barnhart was able to make up ground on the slug. I think she passed like 7 or 8 people on that thing. That's the kind of power you're dealing with here.
And that's also something that you're going to be excited about watching here in these final 20 to 30 calories, right? It's towards the end of the workout who can really kind of dial up the wattage and increase their power output to kind of finish strong and get to the finish line. That's what we saw with the slug with Amanda passing all those athletes, and exactly the same type of mechanism you're looking for from an athlete to finish these calories.
Barnhart and Wells on the right side of your screen fighting for the lead here, and then the battle for third is between Tia Orr and Catherine Davids-Daughter. Hard to tell who leads between the two of them. But pretty clear that Amanda Barnhart and Brooke Wells are the leaders in this featured matchup.
And at this point, you're not even really concerned about your pacing or your pull. Every pull now on the rower is a max effort. You're emptying the tank here, everything you got into every pull as quickly as possible.
Amanda Barnhart getting very close to that 120 mark. Should hit that any minute. Brooke Wells is right with her, but Barnhart, you can tell by the way she's pulling, is just about done. And that'll do it, 9:35 for Amanda Barnhart. So she overtakes Brooke Wells on the rower. Wells the first one there. Wells will finish at 9:44, so she'll take second in this featured matchup. That leaves Tia Toomey-Orr and Catherine Davidsdottir. 6 championships between the two of them on the left of your screen, and it seems like Davidsdottir is just slightly ahead of Tia Toomey-Orr. Davidsdottir, the 4th woman on the rower, got there at the 3-minute 44-second mark. And she's starting to pick up her pace, so 10:07 now for Davidsdottir. And Tia Toomey-Orr about ready to finish as well. Final couple of pulls for the 4-time defending CrossFit Games champion, 10:19 for her. That'll do it for this featured matchup. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed test number 3 of the quarterfinals.